I thought having 4 sisters and a mother obsessed with marrying us off was the most stressful thing I would ever deal with. I was wrong. My real nightmare started the day the richest, most arrogant man in England moved into our neighborhood and completely destroyed my life. Or at least, that is what I thought he did. Let me give you some background. I live in a society where women cannot inherit property. If my father dies, our house and entire estate go to a distant male cousin. My 4 sisters and I will be left with absolutely nothing. So my mother has made it her life's mission to get all 5 of us married to wealthy men. It is exhausting. Then, a ridiculously wealthy, cheerful guy named Mr. Bingley rents the massive estate near our town. He brings along his 2 snobbish sisters and his best friend. The best friend is incredibly wealthy, very tall, and overwhelmingly rude. We all meet them at a local dance. Bingley is a golden retriever in human form. He immediately falls for my older sister, Jane, who is the sweetest person on earth. But his friend. Let us talk about his friend. He stands in the corner all night, refusing to dance with anyone. At one point, Bingley actually points me out to him and suggests we dance. Do you know what this man says? Loud enough for me to hear. He looks at me and says I am tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt him. Yes, he really said that. So naturally, I decide right then and there that I despise him. Over the next few months, Bingley and Jane are clearly falling in love. But his friend and those snobbish sisters are constantly judging my family. To be fair, my mother is loud and my younger sisters are incredibly embarrassing. But still, the judgment is unbearable. Around this time, a militia regiment comes to town. I meet an officer who is charming, handsome, and easy to talk to. We get to talking, and he confesses a massive secret. He actually grew up on the same estate as the arrogant billionaire. He tells me that this man ruined his life out of pure jealousy, denying him the inheritance he was rightfully promised. Trust me, I should have seen the red flags. But my prejudice against the billionaire was so strong, I believed every word the officer said. It just confirmed everything I already thought about the guy. Just when I think Jane is going to get her happy ending, Bingley abruptly packs up and leaves for London. He cuts off all contact. My sister is completely heartbroken. Fast forward a few months. I go to visit my best friend, who recently married my terrible, cringeworthy cousin. The cousin works for a terrifying, wealthy noblewoman who demands everyone bow to her every whim. And guess who her nephew is? The arrogant billionaire. He is visiting his aunt at the same time I am there. We are forced to spend time together, and it is incredibly awkward. Then, I find out from his cousin that he is the one who convinced Bingley to abandon Jane. He ruined my sister's happiness because he thought our family was not good enough for them. I am furious. I am literally plotting how to avoid him for the rest of my life. At this point, I know what you are thinking. I should confront him, right? Well, I do not have to. Because he shows up at my house out of nowhere, paces around the room, and proposes to me. But it is not a romantic proposal. He basically tells me he is deeply in love with me against his better judgment, his family's wishes, and his own common sense. He spends half the proposal insulting my family and my social status before asking me to marry him. I completely lose it. I tell him he is the last man in the world I could ever be prevailed upon to marry. I call him out for ruining Jane's life and for destroying the officer's future. He gets very quiet, looks absolutely furious, and leaves. The next morning, he hands me a letter and walks away. And this is where everything flips upside down. In the letter, he explains everything. He separated Bingley and Jane because Jane was so shy he genuinely thought she did not love Bingley back, and he wanted to protect his friend from a gold-digging family. Fair enough, I guess. But wait, because this is not even the worst part. He explains the truth about the officer. The officer is not a victim. He is a compulsive gambler who blew through his own inheritance, demanded more money, and when he was denied, he tried to manipulate the billionaire's 15-year-old sister into running away with him just to steal her fortune. I read the letter over and over. I realize I have been completely blind. I let my pride get hurt at that first dance, and I judged everyone based on my own prejudices. Months later, I go on a summer trip with my aunt and uncle. We end up touring his massive, beautiful estate because we were told he was out of town. Of course, he comes home early. We run right into each other. But instead of being cold, he is incredibly polite. He introduces me to his sister. He is like a completely different person. I am actually starting to fall for him. Then, disaster strikes. I get a letter from home. My youngest sister, who is foolish and reckless, has run away with the corrupt officer. This is absolute social ruin. If they are not married, our entire family's reputation is permanently destroyed. None of us will ever be accepted in polite society again. I am in tears when the billionaire finds me. I tell him everything. He looks incredibly grave and leaves immediately. I assume I will never see him again because he would never associate with a disgraced family. Miraculously, the officer agrees to marry my sister. Everything is patched up, though they are still a nightmare couple. But then I find out the truth. My father did not convince the officer to marry her. The billionaire did. He tracked them down in London, paid off all of the officer's massive gambling debts, bought him a military commission, and essentially bribed him into marrying my sister to save my family. He did it all secretly, expecting nothing in return. Shortly after, Bingley comes back to town and finally proposes to Jane. We are all thrilled. Then, the terrifying, wealthy, and shows up at my house unannounced. She has heard a rumor that her nephew is going to propose to me, and she demands I promise never to marry him. I look this incredibly powerful woman in the eye and absolutely refuse to make any such promise. Word gets back to him that I stood up to his aunt. It gives him hope. He comes back to town, we go for a walk, and he proposes again. This time, he is completely respectful. And this time, I say yes. Can you guess which book this is? Comment your answer below. Here is your hint. This story features literature's most famous enemies to lovers romance, and the original title was Almost First Impressions. Drop your guess in the comments, and if you want the reveal plus another book told like a Reddit confession, subscribe.